Welcome to Construction Champions Podcast, where we are burning the house down and rebuilding it twice a week. I'm your host, Rod Nussbaum, and I am here to help you become the champion that you're meant to be. Along with our amazing guests along the way, we will provide you with the resources, the latest and greatest. You will sit down with disruptors in the construction industry. And my goal from day one has always been to change the mindset around the construction industry. No more where we let the 3% of bad apes dictate the entire reputation of. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Construction Champions Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Nussbaum. I am a United States Marine Corps veteran, and I am the founder and CEO of Builder Comms. We're just like the intro said, we are burning down the house on the construction industry, and we're talking about how you become the champion that you're meant to be. And you guys don't tune in for me or ladies. You tune in for all of our amazing guests we bring on. And today is no different. Brian, it is fantastic to have you here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Well, why don't you introduce yourself to all the construction champions out there listening?
Definitely. I'm Brian Seymour of Springdale Custom Builders out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We run a small custom design build firm here, focused on new home and custom townhomes that we build in Charlotte. We're a team of 9 at the moment and growing. And it's been exciting. We're going to year 10 next year.
Awesome, man. I love it. And I am in Inward, Iowa, North Carolina. So we're not that, we're about 5.5 hours from each other. I've been out to Charlotte a few times, so I know that much. So I'm excited to dive into this, and I'm going to ask the $1 million question. And that is, what makes a construction champion?
Great question. What makes a construction champion is, the proactiveness and the ability to manage a project and lead a project from start to completion without having issues and or going amok. It's one of those things that I learned at a young age. I was told was, anyone could be a construction manager, but a good one is always proactive and ahead of the game. And there's a difference between the two and how the project result turns out. So proactiveness is a big piece to definitely dominating the construction industry.
Absolutely, because without that, things can really just go sideways very quickly in the construction industry. There's a lot of things that we can't control, but there's a lot of things we can. And if we really focus in on what we can control proactively, it starts to eliminate those things that we can't control so much. How do you, running a business, growing, proactively keep projects on track?
Yeah, weekly schedule meetings. We're looking 2 weeks out. We're also looking 8 weeks out, and then we're also looking 8 months out where we're at. There's big communication. Also, is training on the project managers. You could be a great project manager, but we all need training every day. We always got to take post-mortem of all our projects, what we do better. And we're refining processes and things of that nature to do things differently at Springdale than other builders are doing in the area to, 1, reduce dead days on site, and 2, to produce better quality. So we have different processes that we do outside of what we see other builders do, and actually produces better results. And our subs love us for it because their trips back on the job are next to none, So we keep their trips to the job low.
I love that. And that, it's one of the biggest things I hear in the industry right now, especially speaking with subs, is I show up to projects, they aren't ready for me, or they just skip me and they expect me to come in and try to do my work when something else has been done. Sounds like you have figured out the science around that to keep your subs happy.
Yeah, we actually had a marketing firm, PR firm, come to our company about a year or 2 ago. Did a poll with all the subs and see how, they respond to Springdale. We got 10 out of 10 from every sub, and they all work with us. And obviously that shows because a lot of subs we're working with are going on year 6, 7, 8 with us. And that's part of our planning, and having design in-house is really effective to know when the plumber shows up for rough-ins on a house. We lay out all the center lines for the sinks, the stops, everything for them because we just want them to roll through it and get in and get out.
Mm.
And, if you're not doing that and you expect them to do it on their own while they got 100 other projects, you're not going to get the result you want. So that's why I'm, proactively understanding of what is the end design, what needs to go where, and we lay it out for them. Even with the framers, when we get ready to do um, ceiling joists on the second floor, we're looking at, hey, we have can lights here. We mark them on all the floors and we make them shoot a laser up to make sure we're not headering off joists. Simple things like that. We spend an hour or two on site before we get to the next step. Saves us a lot of time, and the trades roughen so much quicker, and we get to drywall just that much quicker.
One thing that I am hearing is that it sounds like you're spending a lot of time on site. And what I'm hearing, what I think a lot of people are doing wrong is they're not they're just not spending time on site. They're not managing the projects at all. It's just kind of let the subs come in, do what they need to do. And that it's causing a lot of headaches through the industry. And it sounds like you're doing the opposite, where you or your team is spending the time on the job sites to actually create success long term.
Yeah, that's exactly so. And it's not just on the job site. Yes, you can reduce your job site time by being ahead of things and communicating pre-contract with the subs, and also just rinse and repeat the same process over and over is very key. It's how we got from, 1 employee to 9 employees right now, and we're growing. So what you do off-site is just as important as what you do on-site.
Yeah.
And more so. And that's where you pull all the pieces together from design and construction and the vendors, and you put the pieces together and say, this is how it's going to go. And you don't do that. Yeah, it's rough. Been it.
And I'm sure having those processes and having people in subs that you have worked with for the last 8 to 9 years, they just know how it's going to be on one of your projects. Like, they know how you run it, what's expected. There is no gray areas there. Like, they know this is how Brian is going to want this on every one of these homes. We come in, we do that, and then they leave. And you don't have the mystery around it. What exactly do they want, or how are they going to expect us to do this? You built these relationships over time, which allows them to succeed and allows you to be successful as well.
Oh, 100%. And you say gray area. Well, that applies to the homeowners too. When we go to contract with the owner, we line out expectations of, what's included in your contract. Their proposals for us about 16 pages long, fine line item. And we also call out a lot of gray areas and areas that are not included. Yes, they probably don't want to see that, but it's also good for them to know going to contract, because when you put apples to apples with another builder, you don't know what you're getting unless you have details, right? And that's one of the things I advise homeowners on is get the details on the front end, and we'll work through it. And that's another part of the process that ties into the building. Our guys can operate better if we have a better estimate book to run off of, and they don't need my involvement. So that's another part of that proactiveness.
I love that. What would you say to the many people out in the industry that are anti the details in the estimates, that are just they feel like they're telling too much information that could end up in their competitors' hands? And I agree with how you're doing it, but there's a large sector of the industry that believes that you can't say too much, because then it becomes too much to be ate apart. But I believe you can't compare apples to apples unless you're looking at apples to apples. And if we just said what we're doing and what we're not doing on every job, it would make everybody in the industry a lot happier, including our customers.
Yeah, and exactly so. And what you're really doing if you're not doing that level of work on the front end is you're selling yourself short and you're devaluing yourself 100%. You have the knowledge. You spent decades working on it. Just spell it out in a template and rinse and repeat and modify to the project. And it's something that you should do if you want to grow. If not, you're going to have trouble growing, because you can't have predictability with financials either, because it's also a learning lesson for the builder himself, because they can see, oh man, I didn't exclude this in the last job. It became an issue with the homeowner and actually cost me $500. I need to remember that so I could exclude that here and say, have an easier conversation. It makes those conversations so much easier with the owner, which then transpires to your experience with the client, and they love you for it. So at Springdale, our pillars are transparency, communication is the two big things for us. Uh, and you got to give it a go if you want to change, you want to grow. If not, it's going to be the same story, different day, another year, you know?
Well, same thing when you're growing and
Yeah.
you're putting the systems in place. It's the same story. It's the same, but the story is a great story. It's not the story of all the problems.
Yeah.
It's the story of the growth and everything that's happening. And, homeowners, the customers, they just want to know. Like, they just want it communicated to them, whether it costs them more money, whether it doesn't, what's included, what's not. Because I learned very early on in my career in construction is that homeowners, when something happens or it costs them more money or there's a problem, they just say, if you would have just told me up front, or if I would have just known, I wouldn't be as upset as I am right now.
100%.
That's what you're talking about doing, is having those conversations prior.
Yeah. And it honestly helps out too, because, if something pops up, you don't tell them for months later, you're at a disadvantage. Tell them now, and you could maybe change a ship or not do the high-end countertops in another room and shifting things around. It's just, communication is the key, and setting expectations. If you want to grow, you have to do that. And now I'm at a place where we have a wonderful team. They're awesome. And I like creating new problems by saying, hey, can we make a change over here and do something different, So we're always tweaking our processes. Once we set it, we're like, well, what's next? And my brain and Andrea, my co-founder, we work the same way. And then our project managers and our other team think the same way. They bring stuff to me. And I was like, hey, I like this, but I want to do X, Y, Z. I'm like, sounds great. Go for it. And you just got to do it. It's bringing in change is a lot of fun versus dealing with the same problem over and over.
I I absolutely agree. And I love that when you're talking about the systems and processes around it, is I think a lot of people feel like that is, once that's set, like that's just how it always has to be. And that's not true. Like, that's just the foundation. That's something to build off of. If you figure out a better way or you test something, it's a living document. Those SOPs can change over time as you evolve as a business, but I think we get too rigid around them. Like, oh no, this is what we put out there 5 years ago. This is how we're doing it. No matter what, it can't change.
Yeah.
But that's it. That was just the foundation. That was to get you in the position so you could start to build off of it.
Yeah. It's no different than a job schedule that ebbs and flows. Process the same way.
Absolutely. You brought something up earlier. It piqued my interest about hiring a marketing firm, and they taught to all the subs. Can you kind of elaborate how that came about? Like, to go that they were taught to the subs in
Yeah.
putting together the marketing piece for you.
Yeah. No, it's a real experience. So there's a thing called imposter syndrome that you deal with as you grow and as you develop. And I think we're at the point where like we were doing good, things were going, and we just felt like I don't feel validated. But that's just part of life and growing as you go. And we also wanted to do a branding refresh with it, and we wanted to just do a health check on that marketing stuff that can get lost, right?
Mm.
So we hired the PR firm. They went to our clients, our past clients, and went to our subcontractors, and all the results came back stellar, and it validated everything we were feeling. And we just wanted, I guess, proof to kind of get rid of our imposter syndrome and say, we're doing great, keep on going. Um, and marketing is very important. I have to say this, that when I started in 16, marketing was not my top agenda. But I have learned through Andrea of how important it is and the brand awareness it builds. So anyone that's not doing it really needs to start considering that. And I know it's hard to do within the first 5 years of even focusing on putting a social media post up or doing any of that stuff. But just put the time into it. And like anything, it's the more effort you put into it, the more results you're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. So next year will be 10 years in business for you. That's quite the accomplishment. Congratulations on that. You're in the Charlotte area there. It's a major city. What are you seeing? What are your feelings for where the building industry is headed currently?
That's a great question. We're definitely headed into more renovations is what we're seeing. We're getting a lot of those plans on the table. Um, spec building is still a business here. But it's look very hyper location based right now, by the street almost, it feels like. Um, and it's getting a little softer, but at the same time, it's still growing. So the builders that have done the work and they're been here for a while and they have the reputation, will be good. It's going to be the ones that are, we're all drinking from a fire hose the last 5 years. It's changing. We're going back to the way it was pre-COVID, and it's kind of like you have to sell and you have to, bring all of yourself to these sales meetings, these plans, and to land projects. And you also have to reinvent yourself of, change of sales or pitch your sales direction to make things happen. So, what I'm liking now. The past few months, it's like, oh, this is kind of weird, but again, it's another challenge, and Andrew and I are working through it, and we're like, what do we need to change in our sales process or things here to kind of make these land? And fortunately, a lot of those land the past couple months, and we're looking for a good 26 right now.
I love it. And, you're saying the same thing that I'm hearing from a lot of leaders in the industry right now is things are going back to a different time in the construction industry. Like we lost sight of a lot of things, and it's time to reel it back in. Like, we were an industry that was built on customer service and how do we deliver that to our customers. And over the past decade or so, we've kind of lost sight of that as an industry. And you talk about going back to pre-COVID, like there was a lot of things that shifted during COVID and after that affected our industry. And that's not sustainable how that was happening. And we have to go back to those core principles, the stuff that got us to where we are as an industry, to then go to where we're going to be heading.
No, that's exactly right. That's how we feel about it. Um, for the younger builders out there, the first year or two, I imagine sales could be harder or they'd be great. But, again, don't quit. I started with nothing, no reputation around town, and we took off. You gotta just put the effort in, and doesn't understand that you wear a lot of hats the first couple of years, and then heck, I'm going to year 10, I'm still wearing a lot of hats, but it just, it's a lifestyle you just get used to, and you just keep going. So.
Well, yeah, the hats just keep changing as long as you continue to grow, the hats change.
Yeah.
Because you have the opportunity to pass stuff off and build a business around it. And I love that advice to the people that are just starting out here, because that's the biggest hurt is people stop. They give up. They just quit because something didn't go their way or something got hard. And I'm sure there's been plenty of times in your last almost decade here that you have just wanted to walk away. But like, you can't, like, it does a disservice to everybody, including yourself.
Yep, 100% does. And the best rule of thumb is keep it simple. You don't need a lot of software. You don't need all the bells and whistles. You just need your schedule, your to-dos, your action items, your messages with your homeowners, and just in your financial checks, understand how to read a balance sheet, a profit and loss sheet, and then also how to, most importantly, forecast a project, run a cost to complete each month. It doesn't take more than an hour or two a week for the month, and you're good. And, it's just the basics. Start with the basics and then build on that.
That's so critical, because I think that's one of the things that bogs people down so much from the beginning is they get too worried about all of this stuff that doesn't yet really matter. Like, let's focus on getting out there and getting the jobs, starting to do these builds, learning. I had a great conversation with a lady that just finished up her first project, and she's like, got all this stuff that she's wanting to do. And I said, what you need to do is you need to go buy a notebook. Yeah. And you need to track everything that goes great on the project, everything that goes bad. Like, that is going to be the foundation for what you really need. Like, right now, you're just emotionally trying to make decisions on what you think you need. but you don't have any of the facts from what actually happened in the projects. What was the timelines? What stuff what went awry? Until you start to understand that stuff, you really can't. All you're doing is just adding complexities for you don't even know if it's right or wrong.
No, yeah, exactly so, and it's gonna take some time to learn if it's right or wrong, and the biggest thing is, 1, make sales, 2, hit your budget, and 3, have the appropriate fee. You should be able to build around that. And even for, people that don't have their own business, the project engineers for these large companies that build, $100 million projects, the guys just starting out, keep it simple, ask the questions, and also put your thought into it. I remember when I first started in the business, we were doing student housing. I think the first 3 months I worked 7 days a week, and we go from 2 a.m. concrete pours. I show up, go to 8 o'clock at night, go grab some dinner, 2 a.m. again, another concrete pour, and just immerse yourself in it. And then you want to start to learn all the process and just planning. Just be proactive even in that realm of like, hey, I'm got this submittal I'm processing for cabinets. I want to review it in detail to the 16th, and then bring it up to my project manager. Hey, I'm noticing these issues are going on. Stuff like that. You don't even think you're learning, but you are. And before you know it, cabinets no problem for a multifamily project and how they operate. So again, it's effort and process.
Yeah. So do you try to keep all your projects pretty consistent in what you guys do, your scope of work, what that looks like, and say no to some stuff? Or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's the saying, know your niche. We focus on new homes and whole house renovations. That's our niche now. We started off with bathrooms and kitchens and stuff, and now we're ready to focus on new home renovations and new homes. That's our niche. That's our specialty. They could be a bear, but it's what we know, and that's our process built around. So, and we do townhomes too. We just wrapped up a 6 units of townhomes over in Plaza Mobile in Charlotte. So we're starting to get into the multifamily townhome game a little bit, which is fun. And that went great. 9 months said and done. Um, and that's part of my background previously. So it was exciting to kind of dabble into that a little bit. So
Yeah, and I'm sure in that journey you have landed on what you do based on the stuff that has happened. Like you have some problems and you're like, nah, that's probably not what we should be dabbling in. And you reel it in, and then finally you become locked on this is what we do. So it sets you up for success. It allows you to systematize the business. Like people that do way too much stuff, you can never systematize everything because it's too much.
100%. And it's okay to say no in sales, and you need to know when it's okay to say no, and all that speaks to everything we just spoke about. Is you get more comfortable saying no when you have a backlog behind you, and that's when you can really start building your business. I remember we took a lot at a younger age in the company because it was, we had to, and there's gonna be a time for that, but you need to start finding the time, planning a year, 2, 3 years out of when you want to flip the switch or start slowly flipping that switch and to get out of the ground. And it's tough. No, there's no exact answer for it. You just got to look at your own business and kind of go from there.
Yeah, you got to know that you can build out the backlog and then also build out the team as well. I think that's where a lot of people get nervous. That's how I build a construction industry or a construction company. Is when we decided it was time for growth, it was, well, let's grow the calendar and then bring the people in and hire that way. But we owned a cleaning company. My wife ran it, and it used to make her so nervous when I was like, okay, so if we have the work, we need to build the calendar out. We're going to say this is when we're going to start phasing in another crew. And then once we have the calendar, we would start to bring that crew in and start to lead up to them running that calendar. And man, does that make people nervous? But
Yeah, I remember my first hire, and I'm like, oh my gosh, not to do this, and we did it. And honestly, it actually freed up time for you as a business owner to go make more sales or focus on the business more. And the employee, I can't speak right now, revenue generating employee. And looking back, I'm glad we did, because it's the point where you're going to feel it in the business of, so you go and no-go point of like, all right, we need to invest and grow, and just understand you're investing in it, or you're not, and then you're not going to hire, and you're going to be here in 5 years in the same spot. And that's a personal decision everyone to make, but I strongly encourage it, if you've got the work for it, to keep going.
Absolutely. What would you say has been the most important hire that you have made?
Ooh, that's a great question. Um, our first 3 project managers. Yep. Then obviously, Andrea being a part of the business from day one. I couldn't do this without her, because she's my partner to keep me in check, 'cause I'm great at building, I think, but she's a great business operations leader. So there's got to be a balance there, and she helps grow the business from there. But definitely our first project managers to help get me out of the field. The biggest struggle is getting out of the field. I like walking the job sites. I like doing a lot of the pre-planning, all the stuff I knew for a long time. But no one teaches you running how to business, and tells you, all right, you need to get out of the field, and you need to go to the office chair and start helping out in that range. So that first project manager was the biggest hire.
I couldn't agree more with what your statements are around that. I know one of the things that comes up is like the process of stepping out of the field and the emotions and everything that goes with that, turning it over to somebody else to run those projects. How was that transition for you, and how did you handle that? Kind of like, you're not really stepping back, you're stepping into bigger and better things in your company. But a lot of times that right there is the hardest transition for people to make.
Yeah. I say I handled it with grace, but a lot of anxiety, honestly, because you know what's happening, what's to be happening, but not meeting the subs is a different thing. But just trusting the process that we built, and being able to see pictures on the job sites. I even put up video cameras to see who's coming in and out, if I could, just to calm my anxiety and just step away for a minute and do what I got to do. And then became more comfortable after the trust was built with the project manager. And before you know it, it's like, oh, this isn't so bad. Um, and then grows from there. And I think that also exposed a lot of gray areas within our company between project manager and myself and the team, of what we can do better, because the estimates could have been a little bit clearer. So he was, I was getting 101 questions. I'm like, oh man, well, I'm getting 101 questions. I probably need to clarify this more on the front end over here. So actually stepping out of it helps you grow in that way too, of understanding of what you're not clearly communicating to your clients. And so it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it allows you to take a bigger picture look that you really can't take when you're in it, when you're in the thick of it every day.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
So I know you're growing. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because you're in the growth process. What do you feel is going to be the next key hire?
Yeah. We got on the forecast for another project manager and an in-house carpenter coming fall, spring of the current coming year. That's our next one. I think, another project manager to help reduce the load of the current project managers. And also a carpenter, just to kind of help out with small things here and there for door hardware, punch out, minor stuff like that. That's also revenue producing. I don't want a carpenter coming in just to fix subs mistakes, as I'm very clear on that. It's more so just, taking care of some of the smaller stuff like bath accessories, things that just can be little details that kind of take some time, the project managers to take care of, and give it to somebody that can do it, and do it our way. Because people come in and install things crooked and whatnot, and it's just sometimes easier to take care of yourself.
I love it. So are you planning on moving more towards bringing everything in-house, or sticking with subs long term, or what does bringing a carpenter in? That's a big step into being able to control that quality, and bringing in your own staff to be able to do stuff. Is that part of the long-term vision here?
Yeah, we joke around that we're control freaks. We're very vertically integrated right now. Just because if you have a process on it, you can control it, you control the controllables. So yes, we are going to sub out a lot of the work still with our trade partners because we're not electrician, plumber, HVAC, framer, all that stuff. But there's a lot of things that we can do. Some interior trim details, hardware, bath accessories, mirrors, all the stuff that's, low hanging fruit. Um, Even sweeping jobs out, just the simple stuff, keeping a job site clean for expectation wise and things like that. That's the goal there. And with us being vertically integrated, we do all our cabinet shop drawings. We have 7 lines of cabinets that we work with, from highly customizable to the basics. So that controls our pricing too. So, the more we go, the more we like to kind of keep it under one umbrella, right?
I couldn't agree more, because I say the same thing. Is I was kind of I don't want to say like I was over controlling, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to control the outcomes.
Yeah.
And the only way I could control them is if it was all people. Because subs have they have a way they do it, and a standard they do it too. And I didn't like that we couldn't control that. Like it's not like I needed to have ultimate control, but I needed to have control over the end results for our customers. And one of the only ways I found to be able to do that was we needed to have people under all umbrella that could do that stuff, that at the end of the day, we wrote their paychecks and they would do it how we wanted it done. No questions asked.
Yeah, and you have your trade contractors that handle the bulk of the things that you trust and know, and they do a great job for you. And it's always the little stuff that trip you up on these projects that you suck your, the time out of your project manager's time to go install some bath accessory or hardware. Like, when we're at the point they don't need to do that anymore, and we're trying to get them out of that, and they can spend more time doing some project management stuff. That's the goal with the carpenter, is to improve the quality of time of our project managers and staff in house, to alleviate some things. That's our goal. And I don't agree more. There's always going to be an aspect of trade partners, drywall, paint, stuff like that, because you don't want to bring that all in house. People specialize in it for a reason, right? So let them do that, and just be a great partner to them.
Yeah. It's those little things that you're talking about right there, is letting the project managers do what you hired them to do, because they don't want to be doing this miscellaneous stuff. Like, they know that's what they're not getting paid to do. And then the stuff the carpenters are going to do is the stuff the homeowner notices. Like, those are the little things that cause the problems with the customer, because that's what they see. Like, that is when something's crooked or it's just not right. That's the first thing they see, and then it just spirals from there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we don't want to have to walk into the house, project manager go in there and be like, why is all this stuff crooked? Just take some time. And, we've eliminated all those contractors years ago, and we don't have those issues, but, it happens. So.
Yeah, I mean, stuff happens, but you can control it, and that's what you're working on doing. I absolutely love it. I guess before we wrap up here, in the almost last 10 years, what is the biggest thing that you have learned running your company?
Oh, financial management. No one teaches you that. Hiring the right financial team to execute a monthly close out of the books, read the balance sheet, look at the P&L, understand what it even means, and then forecasting a year out and cash flow. That took a lot of time to figure out, because everyone thinks, cash in the bank is not a standard of how you're doing financially. It's going to be the balance sheet. And, bringing the CFO in and our CPA and having a financial process in place now for the better part of 6 years is been a game changer. That's, I would say that'd be it. Yeah.
I know, I love that, because it's so true. Like, that's what, like, when you when you learn to build, or you get your building license or contractor's like it's not the financials aspect is has zero to do with it, but it is so critical to your business. Is that something that you work with outside people, or have you brought those people into your company?
No, we're 1099 right now. Phenomenal. Very local here in Charlotte. you know. Um, Great people to work with, on point. And the only reason why we're successful is because of them, obviously, in the financial world, obviously our team as well. Um, but just developing that process. And I think, you got to close your books out by the third week of each month for the month prior. That's checklist number one, because you don't want to go 3 or 4 months with a suspense log of all these receipts. That just means you're not tracking things. So learning that process and doing the cost completes each month to see where you're going to wind up with your team and your project manager, and identifying issues ahead of time. Hard thing to learn, but once you do it, it's repeatable.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think going out and finding people locally that know what they're doing is one of the best things you can do. I think people try to bring those people on too early, and they don't even have a bearing themselves. Like, you're not just paying for the service, you're paying for the education and the understanding and how to do this, and then having people local to you that can do this for you. I think that's absolutely amazing and a great way to go about it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's phenomenal. And we also get some insight. We don't get any specifics, but like, hey, you're doing good, and because you don't know if you have somebody in house, you don't know if you're doing good, but if you have somebody that works with, I don't know, 7 or 8 other builders in town, but we don't know who those builders are. There's no information shared. You just say, "You okay, Brian? All right, I trust you."
Well,
Yeah.
because they get a bigger picture than what you get. Like, they can actually look at the grand scheme of things. And I think that's one of the amazing things about working with people, that's what they do, is because like you said, they're not sharing any information, but they have knowledge of this.
Yeah.
So they can help guide you in the right directions and give you the feedback from stuff that you don't even know because you don't have access to all this other information.
Yeah, and I mean, that even applies with trade or architect contacts. If you talk with architects and say, "Hey, what are you guys working on? Are you got like a year of backlog, or is work kind of slowing up for you?" And that tells me what's coming down the road.
Hmm.
So, even things like that can be just simple clues of what's coming your way. No guarantee. You're always going to get blindsided here and there, but you gotta deal with it and go with the ebbs and flows.
Absolutely, man. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation today. For everybody listening, if they wanted to learn more about you, your business, connect with you, where's the best places for them to do that?
Yeah. Our Instagram, Springdale Charlotte, is our Instagram account. SpringdaleCharlotte.com is our website. Connect there. We got some exciting things coming out in 26 and 27 to help some builders in the future. Maybe that'd be another show, but yeah.
Absolutely, man. You're always welcome back on here whenever you want to come on.
Awesome. Love it. Good chatting with you, by the way.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you, and thank you for taking the time in doing this today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right, construction champions, another episode in the bag. And just keep it simple. Like, we can control what we can control, but we can overcomplicate it so fast. Growth will happen if you let it happen. You just have to be open to it. And I think for me, when Brian was talking about that anxiety of letting that first project manager go out there and run that project, that's real. That's raw. Like, that's what we hear all the time in the industry, is like, how do I let go of it? Like, you just have to. Like, you have to face it. It's not going to ruin you. You have to have the systems in place to set that person up to be successful at the position, or it could ruin you. So make sure that you're in a position where that person can go be successful and then learn from it. Like Brian said, he learned, he wasn't communicating the details the best on the front end. Well, that happens when you're the person doing the selling and doing the building. You know everything in your head. But once you start to bring people on and you start to delegate these tasks, you start to learn where those weaknesses are, and it allows you to build a better business from that. So don't be afraid to control what you can control. And also, don't be afraid to look it in the face when it's scary, because business is scary. This is all scary. We talked about it on here plenty of times. but you just have to rip that Band-Aid off and go do it and go be successful. So Construction Champions, until next time, be the champion you were meant to be.